Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor. And I just happened to be talking about Link to at the beginning of this video, and at the same time I'm checking my volumes because Nick Burafeta, who is also known as Mr. B over at Link to, does not like it when I adjust my volumes at the beginning or clear my throat at the beginning of a video. But he did make me aware of this. Link to my sponsor, linqto.com, has running a special today. Invest in Ripple today until Thursday at 5 a.m. Pacific time. All existing Link to investors will receive $400 in XRP for orders over $5,000, $1,000 in XRP for orders over $10,000, $2,500 in XRP for orders over $25,000, $5,000 in XRP for orders over $50,000. You must have an Uphold wallet connected to your Link to account in order to receive your XRP. And there you have it, folks. Check this out. Right on time, the government is now making sure that it appears that the economy, they're about to lower interest rates going into the election, and now they're going to try to fudge their numbers to make it look like there's a good economy going into the next, going into the election period. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we don't see these markets like crypto start to take off. Until they do, I will be buying.
Tiffany, what was your reaction and take on all this?
Yeah, so I agree. I think this is probably, this is a 25 basis point rate cut in September. It takes away some of the urgency that the markets were discussing around a 50. I think ultimately, though, the Fed probably had made up his mind. I don't think that the labor market report that we got a few weeks ago was weak enough for them to go. It wasn't great, but it wasn't weak enough for them to go 50. I think more likely what happens in September is they announce 25, but they make it very clear that they're going to do a sequence of rate cuts. Because relative to their own monetary policy rules, they look a little bit behind a curve. So they can, there's a range of possible outcomes here where it's appropriate for them to be cutting. So I think that's really the message that they're going to send.
Emily, your reaction and what you think the Fed may do?
Yeah, this was a good report. In fact, this was the fourth consecutive good report we got after three bad ones to start the year. The shelter component here is a little bit worrisome. It's been responsible for 70% of the gains in CPI over the last several months. So the housing market's just been very stubborn here. But overall, the Fed's going to be a lot more focused on the labor market. I agree with Tiffany. Last month's job report wasn't great. The revisions were terrible. Job openings are at the lowest level since 2021. We're hearing respondents in surveys telling us that jobs are hard to find. And then we heard from Powell at Jackson Hole that the Fed does not welcome any more cooling in the labor market. So we think that the focus here shifts away from inflation towards the labor market. It's going to be 25 basis points in September. Bond market's loading up the rest of the year, 50 basis points expected in November, 50 in December. We think that's a little bit too aggressive here.
Folks, you see the writing's on the wall. Get ready, strap in. I've been buying XRP. I will be buying some more. I'm getting ready for this myself. This is, the other day Michael Saylor had made that $13 million Bitcoin price target. And here's Tom Lee from Fundstrat commenting on that.
I want to be very clear. We don't really have an opinion on Bitcoin, but the question comes up a lot. I know you have some strong opinions on Bitcoin. How do you see that?
Well, we're still recommending Bitcoin. We started writing about Bitcoin 9 years ago. Okay. And originally we recommended investors put 1% of their portfolio into Bitcoin, or 0.5 into Bitcoin and 0.5 into Ethereum. And at that time, what we had written about was that even if you don't believe in blockchain and the security of the Bitcoin network, 90% of the move in Bitcoin was explained by just two variables, the number of wallets and the activity per wallet. And if you projected that out, we thought Bitcoin could get to 25,000 by 2022, which was like a 20x gain. It turns out it hit 22,000 in 2022. If you do the same math for Bitcoin now, the number of wallets could still rise by a pretty big, what they call log function. And, Bitcoin could get to, I've heard numbers like Michael Saylor yesterday said 13 million. They're not crazy numbers for Bitcoin if it becomes a mainstream form of financial transaction. But here's the interesting thing. Our 1% allocation, when we first recommended it, today is over 40% of someone's portfolio. And if they did 0.5 in Ethereum and 0.5 at Bitcoin, it's 80%. So I still think it makes sense to put 2% into Bitcoin. BlackRock is recommending arguably a larger allocation. I mean, it has become an asset class, and it's your hedge, because in the event that the dollar becomes questioned or sovereign, the sovereignty of an individual, then Bitcoin could have a huge step function move, and it makes its gains in 10 days a year. So if you don't own Bitcoin and just sort of hold it and forget about it, you're going to miss out on most of the gains.
Do you have a target for Bitcoin now?
Yeah, our team, we have a crypto team. It's actually 4 people that research Bitcoin basically every day. And they think it's going to be over 100,000 by the end of the year, with most of that move coming after Election Day. So it's part of this halving cycle. I think that's not crazy. I mean, Bitcoin is, 58,000. But in the next couple of years, could it be mid 6 figures? Again, it's not a stretch, because the one thing is everybody in this room is above average in wealth, and the banking system works in your favor. If you're not wealthy, if you look at OECD data, the average person spends almost 6 weeks of their salary a year to pay for their bank account. That means they're paying more to use the banking system than they are paying in taxes. So it's really expensive. It's roughly 4% of all global GDP is spent to pay the banking system. It's a huge tax.
Yep. Okay. Wanted to show you this. UK Parliament introduces bill to recognize Bitcoin as personal property. Then Anders L. reminds us of something. This is uncomfortable for the Bitcoin people and the proof of stake people. This is IMF telling us proof of work will not be viable as a consensus mechanism amongst many regulated financial services activities, especially since it's too energy intensive and uses probabilistic settlement. Not holding back in their criticism, they also tell us proof of stake will have some of these issues because of the probabilistic settlement. XRPL offers deterministic settlement, and this is straight from the IMF, by the way, folks. Don't shoot the messenger. Trump and Harris didn't mention crypto once last night because despite the industry's pretensions into relevance, most people don't care about these issues, says this guy. I have not read that article. Don't know if I want to. It's some jerk's opinion who obviously doesn't know anything. And then we've got this from Uptown Saul's been stirring it up. It's looking more and more like the announcement concerning interoperability would come from Swift HQ. Transfer of tokenized value across public and private. I don't think there's any doubt at this point that Swift's going to hook up to some interoperable players, right? And then Uptown Saul, then he replies to Judy Shelton and gets a mention. Says, Judy, if we zoom out from just the U.S., is it possible for the world to collaborate on sound money, maybe through the virtues of a gold standard, but in a cryptocurrency kind of way? That was one of her quotes from a while back. She says, yes, I definitely think so, Uptown Saul. It would be an act of leadership. Reagan once declared, as president, my first priority will be to make the dollar the most trusted currency in the world. Sounds similar to what Donald Trump is saying now. Finally, I haven't given, people ask me all the time, give me an update on your son's baseball. So I'm going to give you one. My son is playing JUCO baseball. He's about 3 or 4 weeks into it. He's already told me that it's a lot like JUCO is a grind. For those of you that don't know, he said it's a lot practice-wise. You know, they're not in their season; they're in the fall. And the way it works is in the fall, they want to go and scrimmage all of the teams, a lot of the teams that they're going to play in the spring. So they go and play in tournaments and games around, you know, while to practice. Now, they can only take a roster of, I think, 30 something to these games. And so they load the roster up mostly with the sophomores because this is their last chance to be seen by MLB scouts and NCAA scouts or assistant coaches and all that. And so right now, they're just now about to start up their games, but my son's a lefty pitcher only, so he's just now, he's pitching in practices right now, and then they put the freshmen on a rotation, I think, to get to play in some of these fall tournaments. And then when spring comes, the coaches, as spring approaches and they're practicing, all the coaches will pick their roster for the spring, and the rest, I think the freshmen would get red-shirted if they didn't. I think that's kind of how it works. But anywho, so that is the update on my son. And the reason I give the update, I tell you at the end of every one of my shows that it's for entertainment purposes only. Well, I have entertained many people listening to my voice with my son in a batting cage since he was 12 years old, maybe 11 or 12 years old. You've been right there with him, and so wanted to give that update. And I'm very proud of him. What I taught him more than baseball was I taught him how to be intense toward his goal and how to never give up. And this kid's going at, I said, look, you go at it down there for 2 years, and as long as you can look in the mirror and say, I outworked everybody here, you did what you had to do. And don't be surprised if you don't achieve all your goals by doing that. Okay, in DAI XRP, we're going to show you, I think they called it the best video of, you know, that day, that thing that happened back on today's date back in 2001 that we can't say out here because I'll get censored. That thing, we're going to talk about that in there. We're going to talk about some of the conspiracy around it, and we're going to talk about what these people call the best video that you'll watch on it. I'm going to show you a couple other things about it. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button. Tell your friends and family. Here we go.